Provide an update on where we stand with the status of the manhunt for Cavalcante. But first, I know you all and the public have had a number of questions about the actual escape made by Cavalcante. I'm going to turn this over to Acting Warden Holland to talk about that. I'd ask that following his remarks, you hold any questions until the end of our briefing, and we will be happy to take questions at that time.
Thanks, sir. I just want to ensure that we know the gravity of the situation and how it's impacted our community negatively. Moreover, to the victims of this individual, I want to make sure that they know that we are consistently and consciously thinking of what they're going through and give out the fact that they continually are on our thoughts and prayers to make sure we bring Mr. Cavalcante to justice. So good afternoon. I am Howard Holland, the Acting Warden of the Chester County Prison. I'm here today to provide preliminary details of the escape of Danelo Cavalcante. Let me begin by addressing the escape of Igor Bolt, which the media has been reporting on. Igor Bolt, which escaped on May 19th of this year. This escape was similar to the methodology of the escape by Cavalcante, and the escape by Igor Bolt allowed the prison to identify a deficiency in the exterior exercise yard where the escape occurred. This is also the same area, the escape yard, where Cavalcante was located prior to his escape. The exercise yard improvements undertaken after Bolt's escape were intended to address the escape route from the yard to the roof area. Security consultants were brought in, and improvements were based on the consultant's findings by a contracted security service. The improvement consisted of additional razor wire being placed in the yard area at the wall where the escape occurred to block access to the roof. The escape of Cavalcante is not just being internally investigated. Because it is in criminal nature, it is also being investigated by the State Attorney General's office. The video of Cavalcante's escape has been turned over to the criminal investigators. I will review the exact timeline and show a video of Cavalcante's escape from the exercise yard at the end of my remarks, but can confirm that it does show that Cavalcante escaped at the same location as Igor Bolt, but for Cavalcante, there was razor wire to contend with before reaching the roof. Secondly, Chester County Prison uses proven countermeasure security that are an industry standard. For example, high fencing, razor or barbed wire, secure doors or gates with salad ports to control movement, video cameras, and most importantly, correctional officers, all of which were in place and remain in place. One of the issues brought to light as we conduct our internal investigations on Cavalcante's escape is that once the additional razor wire had been added to the escape route following Igor Bolt's escape in May, it was determined by our security advisors that this one level of security was sufficient. In fact, what was perhaps overlooked was the fact that addressing the single point of physical countermeasure should have been bolstered by additional means. We are addressing that. On Tuesday afternoon, yesterday, we had engineers from Trans Systems, a company which was selected by Lancaster County to design their new prison, brought on site. They are developing proposals for the prison board to fully enclose all outside exercise yards. While we believe the security measures we had in place were sufficient, they've proven otherwise, and we move quickly to enhance our security measures. Finally, I'd like to cover the human element of the escape. One key difference in the escape by Igor Bolt as compared with the escape of Cavalcante is the role of the tower officer, whose primary responsibility is to oversee the inmates in the exercise yard. In Bolt's escape, the tower officer observed the subject leaving the yard area and contacted control immediately. That is why Bolt was apprehended within 5 minutes. In the escape of Cavalcante, the tower officer did not observe nor report the escape. The escape was discovered as part of the inmate counts that occurs when inmates come in from the exercise yard. As I previously noted, the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office will be conducting a thorough criminal investigation into the escape, which includes this element of the incident. This investigation is both necessary and welcome. The action of the tower officer present at the time of Cavalcante's escape are a key part of our internal investigation, and we'll be taking appropriate action against personnel based on the results of that investigation. Here is the timeline of the events. At 8:33 a.m., Cavalcante's block entered the exercise yard. At 8:51 a.m., Cavalcante escapes from the prison, having crab walked up a wall, pushed his way through a razor wire, run across the roof, scale another fence, and push his way through more razor wire. At 9:35 a.m., Cavalcante's block returned to the unit from the yard. At 9:45 a.m., officers on Cavalcante's block notify Central Control of a missing inmate, and they conduct a special count. At 9:48 a.m., officers informed Central Control that Cavalcante was not there. There was a belief that he may have been in the phone visiting room, which was checked with negative results. At 9:50 a.m., the prison was locked down and the special count was conducted. By 10:01 a.m., the public escape siren had sounded and the 911 center had been notified. Just as we do in any security-related incident, we will thoroughly review all of our practices, policies, and procedures and make improvements as appropriate. We are currently formulating plans to enhance security to include, as previously mentioned, fully enclosing all outside exercise yards, installing additional security cameras, adjusting officers' positions when inmates are in exercise yards, and additional security assets which would enhance overall security of the prison. As I close, I would definitely like to thank my local, federal, state, and law enforcement representatives who quickly responded to the scene once the escape was there. I know they have been diligently working to take Mr. Cavalcante back into custody, and we are very appreciative of their efforts. At this time, due to the nature of the investigations that are ongoing, I cannot comment on any individual investigation, including the internal investigations. With that, I'd like to turn it over back to Colonel Dukes. So, I'm not sure where.
Where is this being played so we can know? It's here, here,
Thank you, Warden Holland. I'll go on with my update, and again, we'll come back to questions momentarily. Last evening, we had another sighting of Cavalcante by a resident in the area of Chandler Road, Pennsbury Township. Teams searched the area for hours, but were unable to locate him. An issue we did experience during that search illustrates some of the challenges our people are dealing with. In spite of precautions, one of our tactical search dogs suffered heat-related and emergency and remains hospitalized today. We are hopeful that he will eventually make a full recovery. As a result of that reported sighting, residents likely observe a significant increase in police activity. We did have a reverse 911 message sent out during the incident in an effort to inform residents of the issue. Additionally, as a result of that activity, we slightly expanded the eastern edge of our perimeter to include Creek Road. The district attorney and I have continued a regular dialogue with school districts in the area, updating them with changes in our operations that might impact schools. As this operation unfolded late last night, the Unionville, Chadds Ford, and Kennett Consolidated School Districts made a decision to close schools. We continue to use hundreds of state, local, and federal law enforcement officers, canines, aviation assets, and various types of technology in an effort to keep the community safe and to bring this to as swift of a conclusion as possible. Excuse me. We continue to increase the number of personnel assigned as conditions dictate. Residents can expect to continue to see large numbers of law enforcement officers in their communities and traveling to and from assigned locations. We continue to ask for the public's help by familiarizing themselves with the photograph and description of Cavalcante, to check security cameras they have, and to call us immediately if they believe they may have seen Cavalcante. Again, we ask residents to please secure homes, outbuildings, and vehicles. Cavalcante has clearly already obtained some clothing and unknown other supplies, and we want to minimize any opportunity to obtain anything more. It is important that we keep pressure on him as we continue the hunt. I am also announcing that Pennsylvania Crime Stoppers has offered up to a $10,000 reward for information leading to the capture of Cavalcante. This brings the reward total to $20,000. Anyone with information is asked to call our tip line at 717-562-2987. 717-562-2987. Lastly, I want to recognize and thank the community for all of their support through this trying time in their lives. I and all of us working this manhunt understand the tremendous stress this puts on families and even businesses. In spite of that stress, and unsolicited, we have had individuals, businesses, and scouting, church, and other organizations show up at our command post with cases of water, food, and well wishes for all of our people. They are very kind, and I can't thank them enough for their support. And now, we will be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Lieutenant Colonel, do you think he has more ability to hide from you than you thought he did when this thing started, since it's 7 days now?
No, I don't think he has any more ability than we initially gave him credit for. I think that it's a very challenging area. I think we've had a number of these types of searches in the past. Some take hours, some take days, some take weeks, and some take months. We're committed to the search, and we will find him. We will bring him back and into the criminal justice
Question
system.
for the DA or the acting warden. You guys have had access to this video. You saw this. Why did it take so long to alert the public of how he escaped?
You said this for the warden?
DA or the acting warden?
Well, I can address that. That matter was referred to the Attorney General's office immediately. We are engaged in a thorough investigation. As I've stated before, our main focus is bringing this man to custody. We were putting all of our efforts to try to locate him. There was a simultaneous investigation into the prison escape, and today was the day that we believed we needed to bring in the acting warden to address the public about how he escaped.
But you knew
Is
ahead of
the
time, but you
Attorney
still
General's
didn't want to release that information to the
Is the
public.
Attorney General's investigation supplanting the Chester County District Detective's investigation?
That's correct.
He
was an escape risk.
This person was able to take the same escape route as someone just months previous, and really nothing was done to prevent that. Obviously, someone didn't do their job in instituting those measures.
So as I said earlier, according to the document, we did have a consulting firm come out, identify how that individual escaped, and we thought we took appropriate measures to prevent that with the razor wire. Again, the one thing we didn't take into account was a failure on the human element side. We only focused on the physical infrastructure and not necessarily the human element.
So was there
So
nobody
did the guard
in the-
fail, or
was
was
there
he just
nobody
not
in
doing
the
his job?
tower? Was there no one in the tower? Is that why you didn't get the call, or was he asleep?
Someone was in the tower at the time.
Should he have seen this?
I'm hearing
Should the
from
person in
state
the tower
troopers.
have seen him leave?
The position of the towers are for observation posts, which overlook the yards.
Lieutenant Colonel
I'm hearing from state police
troopers.
troopers
Sir, does he
about
have,
this
just
investigation. I'm hearing from state police, local law enforcement, and marshals that you guys have multiple channels. Last night I witnessed this. There was an officer from Kennett Square. There was activity. That officer didn't hear anything. He asked the trooper what's going on. They said we're on a different channel. He was left in the dark, and I'm hearing now from, it was at least 12 officers in the past 6 days that told me they are not able to communicate in concert with you guys. Are there multiple channels that you guys are operating?
No, I would have to look into that specific concern, and I'd be happy to do that. Maybe we can talk afterward, and you can supply me a name that we can look into it.
Okay.
What I would tell you is that we've spent a lot of time and effort making sure that we do have solid communications. We've got a lot of agencies working there. Most have representation in our command post, and we would know immediately if we had a communication issue. So if there is something that's isolated to a certain agency or something, we certainly want to take a look at that.
Lieutenant,
But that's not a wide.
when was
Has
he obtained a weapon, and if so, what kind of weapon do you think he has?
We have not determined that he has obtained a weapon.
When was the consultant brought in, and what was the name of the consultant again?
individual was listed as an escape risk. This was known that he was looking to do something like this prior. Why was he, and also, he's here on a murder charge, he's being held here waiting to be sent to state prison. He knows he's wanted in Brazil. Why is he roaming around the yard like this and not in a more secure location? And is that something you'll do as the administrator of the prison later, is to reevaluate how high-risk offenders have free access around the prison?
So to answer your question, we will certainly reevaluate how we're handling inmates of that level, especially murder suspects. But we also have to understand that these individuals have certain rights. So it's not a question of will we let him out again. It's certainly a question of would I put him back out there with a group of other individuals, or there would be a one-on-one, and it would be a one-on-one from this point.
Do you believe the Brandywine Creek is a possible escape route?
Fully enclosed.
Do you believe the Brandywine Creek is a possible escape route? Officers are monitoring it on Route 1.
I would say that we are open to anything being a possibility as far as an escape route, and we're actively working to keep that area secure. I wouldn't comment on the viability of one versus another escape route.
Do you think he's out of your perimeter? Is
I
there a
do
chance
not.
he's flipped your perimeter?
I do not.
What makes you believe that?
Everything that I'm able to see, the various sightings that we've had, other aspects of this investigation lead me to believe that he is still there.
Can you describe the boundaries of that perimeter that you believe he's within?
Sure. So on the northern end, Route 921. On the east,
921 or 926?
I'm sorry, 926. On the eastern side, 100 or Creek Road. On the southern side, Hillendale. And on the western side, 52.
How big is this compared to what your perimeter was in days past?
What's the square mileage roughly?
Offhand, I don't know what the square mileage is.
Is this bigger?
It is slightly larger than the perimeter that we had in the past. Quite frankly, it was enlarged for two reasons. One, because of one of the sightings, and two, because we were also very cognizant of inconveniencing the public. Quite frankly, we probably could have kept that southern perimeter a little further north, but we probably would have interfered with traffic on Route 1 and would have caused even more headaches for local residents and those passing through as well. And so we took the option that we believe is equally secure and yet doesn't inconvenience residents.
Assistant Warden, Cavalcante was in custody since 2021. He would have been in jail at the same time as Igor Bolt. Is there any indication that the two of them had any contact?
We have no information at this time connecting that, but again, that is not up for me to determine. It's up for the Attorney General's Office and the investigation.
Acting Warden, would you have chosen to share this information today had the similarities between Igor Bolt's release not been made public?
I'm sorry, one more time?
Would you have chosen to share the details of Cavalcante's escape and the similarities to Igor's had the information not come to light yesterday?
So I don't really think it's a decision of me releasing. I think it was appropriate with the coordination of the Attorney General's Office to release it when they deemed appropriate. So that's why we're here.
Lieutenant Colonel, is lethal force authorized only in the perimeter, or is it authorized statewide in the next state if he does not surrender clearly to use
I have no
lethal force?
authority in the next state. I have authority in Pennsylvania,
And
Pennsylvania State.
Is
Police.
it statewide lethal force if he's seen anywhere in the state, or is it around?
No, the directive pertains to this particular search.
And the backpack, or the sighting today that was reported, I believe, by Fox 29, where he might have been getting into a dark green car, did that come to any fruition, or is that?
I'm sorry,
There was
the first part
there
of
was
your
a
question.
dispatch this morning that said that an individual with a backpack matching the description of the escapee got into a dark green car.
No, that was not.
That was not the case.
Warden
Does
Holland,
Cavalcante
is the
have
photo
any
of Mr.
friends
Cavalcante that we see here, was that taken just before the escape?
I believe it was, yes, sir.
Are you getting a lot of sightings throughout the region outside the perimeter? You know, other parts of Chester County, other counties where people are thinking that they're seeing him? And what kind of stress does that put on your resources?
We are not getting a lot of sightings outside of the perimeter. In fact, very few. They are being fully investigated. Nothing has led me to believe that any of them were actually him. And we have the ability to do this operation and follow up outside of the area.
Any idea where he thinks he might be trying to get to?
I do have some ideas of where he thinks he might be trying to get to, but I'm not prepared to
You
Which
said
I
last
have
week
family.
that he's trying to head south.
In the area?
You said last week you think he's trying to head south, maybe to Mexico or Brazil. Do you still believe him?
I believe he's trying to head south. In terms of his final destination, again, I'm not prepared to discuss
Are
that.
family members cooperating, or has it been determined that they may have aided in this at all?
We're not going to discuss any parts of the investigation involving the family.
Just wanted to ask about the, if you could take me back to the escape. Could you give an approximate width from one wall to the next?
So I would say approximately maybe 5 feet, maybe less.
And Acting Warden, you said you're looking to fully enclose the yard.
Yes, sir.
What does that, that means that there's not a fence around it already? Can you explain?
So the yards are block wall with an exterior fence with an open top. Along that line are razor wires so someone physically can't climb the fence. Moreover, there's smaller mesh fence on the second half, so the fence is probably 10 to 15 feet high. What the proposal is actually to cap that whole thing in basically like as a cage so no one can physically climb out.
All the way from the fence to the building?
All the way, and all 8 yards that we have.
You reviewing any other video that shows him practicing this? I mean, did he just boldly do this on a whim, figuring out that he could go up this wall?
So we have no supportive evidence as far as video that shows him trying to do this, no other than inference of him attempting it from any other inmate.
Which yard is this? Is this yard A, yard B, yard C? You said 8 yards.
So this is C yard.
You talked about the control tower and there being a guard in there that did not observe the escape. Is there any corrections officer that is physically present with the inmates when they're in that recreation area? And if not, why not?
So there's physically no correctional officer in with the inmates. For the observation tower, it's to observe the inmates, one, obviously, for any type of injury, any type of fight that's going away, and any escape attempt.
Why wouldn't there be someone just outside there if not inside?
So typically, the other thing we have is a video monitor in that area. So we don't put 2 staff in there. As part of the upgraded system that we're putting in, we are putting additional personnel, not only in the tower, but on the ground to observe anybody in the yard.
Assistant Warden, was nobody monitoring this camera that you showed us that had the video of him crab walking up?
So we have approximately 160 cameras at any one time that's monitored all over the facility, also inside to control door movements to see who's coming and going. So with the time it took him to go up, when we all saw the video, it wasn't very long. So in that instance, if it wasn't observed and the camera didn't pick it up because either we weren't focused on that or we were focused on other things, it's feasible that, yeah, we didn't see it because we just weren't focused
Did
on
you
it.
have a full complement of corrections officers working on the day of the escape, or were there posts that were vacant?
There were no posts that were vacant that day.
Lieutenant Colonel, you've said that you think he's heading south, Lieutenant Colonel, but you've also said you do have an idea where you think he's heading, but you won't tell us that. But you do believe he's heading south, so you believe that he has more specific goals in mind that are closer to this location that he might be heading
Yes,
to?
my reference to heading south is more so in our area that we're searching. What his final destination and the pathway to get there, I have some ideas, but again, I'm not prepared to share those at this point.
But is he going east? I mean, he went from Longwood Gardens now to Chandler Road. That's east, not south.
Yes.
So why do you think he's going south?
Again, I'm not going to theorize or share theories in here, but yes, there was one sighting east.
Can you tell us more about the sighting? What was he doing? What did it look like?
And who spotted him?
It was a resident of the area that observed him in a creek bed near the rear of their property and called us. He was already traveling into the woods when that individual called us.
Does he have family or friends in this area?
He has some family and some associates in the general area.
Is there anything to indicate?
Again, I'm not going to.
Lieutenant Colonel, do you believe he's lost?
I guess we'll know that when we find him and interview him for sure. I do suspect he's probably having trouble now.
Have you discovered any items he may have used?
We have not recovered anything from him out in the field. We have discovered through the photograph that you saw that he has a backpack, a duffel bag, and a hoodie, but we have not recovered any of those items.
There were items found yesterday